This video tutorial is about Adobe Premiere's semi-automatic transcription feature. I call it semi-automatic because it does a lot of the work for you, but not all of the work. Here I have a Premiere project with several interview clips imported, and I have a blank timeline area. Adobe Premiere transcribes interviews based on whatever is in the sequence. So if we want to do transcriptions of individual interviews, we need a separate sequence for each one of them. So I'm going to go to the first one here, Gemma 01. I'm going to right-click on it and go down to New Sequence from Clip. And here it is on the timeline. And now I need to go up to the workspace selectors and select captions and graphics. If that doesn't show up, you can click on that icon and go down to captions and graphics. Over here in the source window, a new tab has appeared and needs to be highlighted. It's called text. When I click on that, I see a button that says Create Transcription. I click on that blue button, and now I have a choice of language, and I have the option to either not separate speakers. If there's just one speaker, we could select that. But we know there are more than one speaker because we have an interviewer and an interviewee, so I select yes, separate speakers. I now click on the transcribe button, and away it goes. We wait as Premiere transcribes the interview, and then we'll see how well it did. We need to get the transcription out of Premiere and into another format to do some editing of the text. Go to these three dots here in the upper right hand corner of the source window, click on those and go down to Export and select Export to Text File. I click on that and choose a location to send it. I'm just going to send it right to my desktop and click Save. So here on the desktop I find my text document, open it up, and we can see it's pretty confusing to look at. It's got all these time codes, and it's got discussion about the volume levels and so on. A lot of stuff that we're going to want to eliminate so we don't have to look at it when we're starting to compile a script. So I'm going to copy and paste it all into a Word document. So I'm highlighting everything, going to Edit, Copy, and then I'm going to open Microsoft Word. Here's a blank document. I'm going to go to Edit, Paste. There's all this text. And now we can start cutting out the stuff that we know we're not going to use in the video. So first we want to label the take here at the top. So Gemma has spelled out her name, so we can type that here. Gemmahohler. And then she said she wanted to be called Film Student. Then we'll put 01 for take 1, and then I suggest you make this bold so that we can see it better in the transcription. Okay, so first there's all this business here, getting her to spell the name and so on that we really don't need. So where does the first soundbite really start? I think it starts right here. Yes, I think films are therapy. That's where she started really talking in soundbites. So I'm going to eliminate everything before that except maybe this time code. And it looks like this continues from here to there. So I don't think we need all this stuff. I'm going to consolidate that into the full paragraph that she spoke. And now somebody else starts talking about the volume levels being low and so on. So we don't need this stuff. This is junk. And then we go down, and it looks like actually everything else in this take is junk. So I'm eliminating all of that. We just have one sound bite in this take. Now, throughout this whole process, it's very important that you actually listen to the interview and make sure that the transcript matches up with what the interviewee actually said. And if it doesn't, then you need to correct it here in the Word document.
I think films are therapy that you do alone because they are emotional journeys that will often teach you, if not a direct lesson, something about yourself. And they make you feel things that you might be too afraid to feel when you relate them to your own life. So I think that movies create important emotional journeys for people, and I would like to create those sort of beautiful emotional journeys.
And once you've done that, we're finished with take 1 and we're ready to move on to Gemma's next take. But in order to do that, we need a new sequence. So I'm going to right-click on Gemma 02 and go down to New Sequence from Clip. And there it is on the timeline and ready to be transcribed. So I go up again to the Captions tab and go to Text and then click on Create Transcription. The settings will be the same, and so I will click Transcribe. This is going to take a bit longer because it is a longer take. And while that's happening, I'm looking at the clip and thinking that we're going to need to do some re-white balancing on this using Premiere's Color tab to get the flesh tones a little more natural looking. It looks like the image is a little too warm. Okay, we're almost done with the transcription, and there it is. Good. So now I go to the 3 dots again and go to Export to Text File. Just going to put it on the desktop. Now I can hide Premiere. Here's our new text document. I'm opening it up, highlighting all of the text that's in there. Going to Edit, Copy. Now I'm going to reopen our Word document and paste that all here at the end of take 1. Edit, Paste. Scroll up to where take 2 begins. And then I'm going to insert Gemma 02 and bold that so it makes it easy to see where the new take begins. And now I would begin listening and correcting as needed, but also deleting stuff that we don't need. We don't need all this introductory stuff. She already spelled her name for us. And looking for where the first soundbite actually begins, and it begins right down here. So I'm going to delete everything before that time code and delete this speaker identification. And there's our first real soundbite in take 2 from Gemma. So I would continue going through this whole take, listening to the interview, correcting where needed, and eliminating anything that's not a soundbite from Gemma. And another thing we might want to do at this point is start adding page numbers. So I go up to Insert and Page Numbers, and then that will insert page numbers at the bottom of each page. And this is going to end up being a fairly long document. And for a really long documentary, you might have 80 or 100 pages of transcript. So you're definitely going to want page numbers. After we're done cleaning up this interview, we will move on to the next interview in Premiere and transcribe it. And that is the interview from Jennifer. Here we are back inside Premiere. So we go to Jennifer's first interview and right-click on it and go down to New Sequence from Clip. There it is on the timeline, and we just click on the Create Transcription button and click Transcribe. Away it goes. We wait a few minutes. And once again, we can see that we're going to need to re-white balance to get this white card back here away from being so yellow and more of a true white, and then everything else is going to look better. In a moment, we'll have a completed transcription. We click on these 3 buttons and go to Export to Text File. And here's our text file, and once again, just highlight everything, edit, copy. And then we would paste that into the Word document and keep going. Here is part of the raw transcript of Jennifer's interview. And as I said before, it's very important to actually listen to the interview and make sure that Premiere transcribed it correctly, because I guarantee you Premiere will not always get everyone's words right. It's impossible. So for example, here's a phrase that jumps out at me that looks a little odd. So if I Sci-Fi Incorporated, that just doesn't make any sense. So we need to catch that by listening to the entire interview and seeing what Jennifer is actually saying and then following along with it in the automatic transcription. So let's listen to what Jennifer was saying in that section.
Designed for women. So if I Sci-Fi Incorporated, something like that.
Okay, that makes much more sense. So we need to go to the transcript and correct it. So if SFI Incorporated, something like that. Now it makes sense and now it's correct. So I would just continue listening to the interview, following along, making sure that I have a correct transcription of everything that everybody says. Now let's fast forward to the point where we have compiled and edited a complete transcription of all the interviews that we've shot for the documentary. We've got Jennifer and Vladimir and everybody's in here. We should give a title to this whole document, and let's call it SFI Doc Master Transcript. Okay, and now the next step is to read through this whole document and find the good sound bites that we could use in the finished documentary, and we're going to highlight those. So this first sound bite from Gemma is great, but as I remember, the volume level was a little low. So we may or may not use this. The second take is virtually the same words. So I think this is a very good candidate to be highlighted as a usable soundbite. To highlight, we go up to Words Highlighting tool and select a color. So we'll select yellow, and let's highlight this whole first soundbite. And then continue reading on, finding the best of the sound bites, because we know we can't use everything. So we want to select the best of the best. And Gemma has a lot of good sound bites. And reading through this second sound bite, it all looks very useful. So I'm going to highlight it. But of course, we don't want to highlight everything. Here at the beginning of the next question, I can see something that probably should not be highlighted. This starts with an incomplete sentence. Oh, all of them particularly. We really don't know what Gemma is referring to there without hearing the interview question. So this part would not be highlighted. Now over here, this sounds like a good soundbite. It would be great to see more women in directing, etc., etc. The whole rest of this paragraph is good and can be highlighted. So that's the process. You read through the entire transcript and highlight the parts that seem like maybe they could be used in our documentary. And that's a great part of whittling this whole beast down to a manageable document that we can use to start constructing a script for our documentary. Because now all you need to look at are these highlighted parts. You can scan through the text very quickly, and then you can also search for particular words or phrases by going Command F. And here we have a search in document window. So maybe we want to search for the word women. So now, as I hit the return button, it finds all the instances of the word women. So it makes it very quick to find things. And maybe you need just a simple word like but to put together two different sound bites to make a complete sentence. And there's all the instances of that word. So transcribing interviews and then putting together a edited transcript like this seems like a lot of work, but once you've done this work, it makes constructing a documentary so much easier. You're not looking for needles in a haystack. you have put together a well-organized, easily searchable document that you can use to start creatively constructing a story.